CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. Full-time artist, ex-guard, said grind hard and learn from every time you ever fail.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Two Bad Hombres. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me this week, as always, my favorite co-host, my favorite partner in crime, Vito Churko. Welcome to the weekend, brother. What's up?
Well, John, I like how you just said that because you have Adam as your co-host, too, of Doc and Jock. So hopefully he doesn't hear that or doesn't care about that. I'll just leave it at that. But I am doing well, by the way. Could be better after Michigan got just shellacked last week at Wisconsin. But I am doing fine. Almost a week after. It is a week after now. So I'm doing fine. I can report to you at this point, John.
Yeah, Vito. It's been a week where Michigan Nation, all the supporters have taken it. Really, you guys got taken to the woodshed by the media. Everyone's talking about it. I definitely want to get your sense of it because really, for this week, for Michigan to be playing Rutgers at home, I think it's going to be okay. But at the same time, a lot of fans have jumped off the bandwagon. Not because they lost to Wisconsin. I think that's been clearly established this week from all the talk. No, at this point in time, people are now evaluating the entire tenure of Jim Harbaugh. And when the Michigan University football team goes on the road, there's a certain expectation as to how they're going to perform. And to be trailing at halftime by that much, to look that disheveled, to look that disorganized, in year 5 of a tenure, raised everybody's alarms. Alumni are embarrassed. People are like, whoa, being competitive is one thing, but being, outclassed in a lot of facets of the game of football is completely unacceptable. And many people called out Jim Harbaugh this week. I'm so fascinated, Vito. What did you make of all this? And Adam has jumped off. He's like, okay, I'm ready for the next guy. I don't believe anymore. It would take a lot for me to get back on the bandwagon to truly believe that the Wolverines are on track to win Big Ten titles, on track to win national titles. Adam's off the bandwagon. He's ready for the next man up. Where do you stand?
Well, I'm about to be off the bandwagon, too. I'll tell you that much. And I really supported Harbaugh through his first 4 years. And even after the end of last season. But coming into this year, remember, Michigan lost a lot of great defensive talent. Devin Bush. You lost Chase Winovich. You lost all these big-name guys from that great defensive unit a year ago. And remember, the defense, it struggled on the stretch last season, too, allowed 62 points to Ohio State in a game in which Michigan should have been a lot closer, and the Vonka D should have shown up, and it didn't. And that was a red flag to start off. Then you get blown out in your bowl game last season as well, and you finish the season just not on a great note. And then going into this year, you would have hoped for more competitiveness in these games on the road against a big foe like Wisconsin. Now, early on in the season, But still, you can't go down 35-0, John, before you score a point in that ball game. And that's what occurred a week ago. And I get that Jonathan Taylor's a great back for Wisconsin. He's a Heisman candidate caliber back. But you can't allow that to occur when you had the bye week as well, remember, to prepare for Wisconsin, who, once again, I know is going to be a tough foe, but you could not afford to get blown out. And then you do. And it showcases to me, John, now that even more and more you can say about Jim Harbaugh, that he doesn't prepare his teams for these big games in a proper fashion. Because time in and time out, these games in which you can consider them as a big test, when they have been big test kind of games, Harbaugh doesn't have his team ready for these kind of games. And it reared its ugly head once again a week ago, John. And the only way in which I can get back on the so-called Jim Harbaugh bandwagon is for him to beat Ohio State this season and for him to lose only one more game the rest of the way, which based on how they played against Army and against Wisconsin a week ago, I don't see that happening for Jim Harbaugh and company right now.
Yeah, nobody's confident about any game. Notre Dame, Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State. There are some people going on the airwaves saying there's a potential that Michigan loses 4, 5, 6 games this year. That's completely unacceptable. And I think what's happened is now that Wisconsin game was the critical turning point for the fans. Because I've been saying it now for the better part of 18 months. Whoa, let's look at some of the coaching decisions that Harbaugh has made in the past 2 years. I mean, I look back, and obviously I remember the games where Michigan plays Michigan State. You were there. You were there in the rainstorm. In the second half there, Michigan State said, okay, it's raining. Let's just run the ball. What does Michigan do in those moments? You saw it firsthand. They were passing
the football.
They're throwing the football. And everybody's like, what's going on there? In key moments, in big games, you saw Michigan's offense go way conservative. So I've been calling out Jim Harbaugh's coaching for the better part of 2 years. Now, all the Michigan supporters are like, whoa, this is still going on year 4, year 5. It's a big problem. And so I think the fan base now is really looking at it and saying, no, we don't want to lower our expectations. This is the University of Michigan. We need to be on the path like Ohio State. You even have some people going on the airwaves demanding a phone call or emails being sent to Urban Meyer. That's how bad it has gotten for Michigan. And look, I think that, yes, to a certain degree, fans should support Michigan. They should read into the hype in the preseason. Look, it's fair. There are a lot of good, talented individuals on that roster. But at the same time, you also have to absorb the negativity. You have to take in that, hey, there's some people out there saying, look, pay attention to Jim Harbaugh's coaching. Pay attention to logic. I came on Doc and Jock for damn near 4 weeks in the summer, and I was talking about Michigan. I'm saying, look, cuz, listen, hear me out. Put aside that I'm a Sparty and that I hate Michigan and this is the best week ever. Put that aside. I said, look, logically speaking, if you are Michigan and you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, which indicates then that you're going to be running a new offense, and you lost all that defensive talent, okay? Talent that went to the National Football League. Where is it logically okay then to start expecting the Wolverines to win the Big Ten when they've never shown it? I told Adam, I'm like, Adam, you guys are not Alabama. Get that out of your head. They're going to struggle. Now, did I think they were going to struggle 28-0 at halftime bad? No. But I did say, cuz, I think this team has 3 losses in them. And I spread them out. I said maybe Army, maybe Wisconsin State, Ohio State. I said, Adam, there's going to be 3 losses on the schedule. You don't just turn over talent. This is not Alabama. And he was like, no, we have to expect this. And I was like, wow. I'm like, Adam, you're crazy. You're going to be set up to fail. There's no way you can expect that. It's not logical to expect that, because Michigan, for everybody now that has recognized it, Michigan's not Alabama. They don't just churn over talent. You know what I mean? And so now everyone's caught up. They caught up to the doc, which I'm very happy. National media, fans, now everybody's caught up to me, which is fine. But now, okay, obviously everybody spent this week bashing Michigan, okay? And now Vito is even off the bandwagon, so that's breaking news right there. Vito's close, he said. Close. I mean, he's not ready yet, okay? I can say it here definitively. If you guys win one Big Ten title with Jim Harbaugh, if he survives this year, because there's whispers that he may just walk away, I might be surprised. But I'll say this, what's next? You guys got to start realizing, okay, you know what? Maybe year 5, year 6, we let this go on. But year 7, year 8, you guys got to start looking seriously, taking a serious, long, hard look at where that program's at, and maybe finding a young, hotshot assistant offensive coach that'll come in here and rally the troops, because I'm starting to really think that this Jim Harbaugh era is just going to come and go without much to show for it.
I'll say this too, John. Michigan could very well lose 4 games this season, as you were saying yourself. So that screams to me right there, and should scream to everybody else out there, Michigan Nation and not Michigan Nation, that Michigan's not even close to Alabama or to Clemson. Not even on the same playing field. I mean, you got taken off the field and thrashed by Wisconsin. Now, a good Wisconsin team, but still, come on, man. You can't allow yourself to go down 35 points before you even score a touchdown.
So take me through it. Vito, take me through it. So you're watching. Did you? I'm sure you watched the game with your family or friends, right? You took that game in?
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't watch the entirety of the game. I listened to a lot of it on the radio, and I'm glad that I did watch a lot of that game because it was bad from the start. I mean, you had a chance to score. You know, after Wisconsin scored, then you fumble. And after that, Wisconsin just took off, and Jonathan Taylor just thrashed you. I mean, Wisconsin accumulated, guys, 359 rushing yards. Michigan only had 40 yards. That Charbonnet, however you call her, enunciate properly his last name, he only had 2 rushing attempts. He has played hurt. Who knows about how good he will be against Rutgers this weekend? So your ground game is poor. Your O-line is porous. Your quarterback, Shea Patterson, got banged up last week as well. He's probable for Saturday, and he will play. But he's not good enough. He's not going to cut the mustard seed when you're trying to beat the big boys of the Big Ten and the big boys of college football as a whole. He's not that great of a quarterback to be able to get you through the toughest part of your schedule. So that's been proven, yet Harbaugh is still stubborn and won't go to anybody else. And I get it. Then McCaffrey's hurt right now. He got banged up last week. He's out for Saturday. So you more than likely won't see him out there. Joe Milton got in for 2 snaps, I believe it was, a week ago. Milton might not be ready, and he's a third-string quarterback. But at a certain point, let's try something else. If you know your starter isn't working out and this current offense isn't clicking on all cylinders, and a big reason for that is your quarterback play. Well, let's go to the third-string quarterback then. What's better for Michigan right now? You really have no other option, especially with McCaffrey out now. So go to Joe Milton, a guy that is considered by some to have the strongest arm of Michigan's current QBs. So let's go to this guy and do that instead of allowing him never to play at Michigan, but to transfer to somewhere else and to become a stud. Let's not let that happen, Michigan. Let's not let that happen, Jim Harbaugh. But the thing is, the problem with Harbaugh and this Michigan program is that they are so darn stubborn and arrogant. They're an arrogant bunch of people. And the fans, we've known that about them for a long, long time. Well, if you didn't realize it already about Harbaugh, I think after that Wisconsin game, I think you have to say that about Jim Harbaugh. They are an arrogant bunch, a very arrogant bunch. And they haven't been willing to adjust when they should have. They should have last week, and really they should have a while ago. And they still haven't. Don Brown as well, the defensive coordinator. You allowed Ohio State to run all over you last season and score the 62 points against you. You never adjusted at halftime when you could have. At halftime going into the second half. And you could have adjusted your way of playing defense after that game. And they still haven't up to this point. And you allow yourself to get, once again, thrashed by Wisconsin. And, John, where are the adjustments? And this falls on the coaching staff now, and the head man specifically in Jim Harbaugh. His failure to adjust and his stubbornness has gotten the best of this Michigan program as a whole. And I know I had said before, and you reiterated that I haven't jumped off the Jim Harbaugh bandwagon completely yet. Well, I was never on it completely from the start, or as of last year at least. And I can see the writing on the wall. I don't think he's good enough at this point. And I think a lot of fans have soured on him now. Because when your team constantly, once again, isn't prepared for the biggest games on your schedule, that falls upon the head coach. And that is Jim Harbaugh right there. And that's why, you know what, I don't mind the cries for his dismissal. The people saying he's not good enough to lead this program in the right direction. And let me tell you, if he's still around here, have a 7th season in Ann Arbor, an 8th season in Ann Arbor, and he's still only winning like 8-9 games a year, but isn't consistently beating Michigan State or Ohio State, well, at that point, you can easily say that Michigan has made a mistake in keeping him for as long as it has.
The factor that really caught me was, and I give him credit, after the game, Jim Harbaugh was candid. He said, we were outcoached, we were outplayed, and this is unbecoming of Michigan. He looked lost, and, obviously that video went viral because of the fact that, this is the Michigan coach. This is, the leader. This is the guy that's, was expected to bring Michigan back to glory. And see, I think that's probably something that's actually hurting Jim Harbaugh, was that Michigan fans thought once he was hired that the program had secured their Urban Meyer. The program had secured their Nick Saban. Well, it didn't happen. And it didn't happen to the point where even Michigan State's coach has achieved far more, accolades than Jim Harbaugh. Right now, the trophy case for the Wolverines is empty. There's nothing in it. In 5 years, you should, and I know I don't want to say that Michigan doesn't have an identity, because I feel like that's a lazy take, because, what does that even mean? How do you describe an identity? I'll put it this way. Michigan's program doesn't have the ability to go forward and meet really national relevancy, and that's the problem. The problem is that Michigan is portrayed and made to believe and hyped up to be this national entity. But at the end of the day, Michigan's program is just really, at the end of the day, a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team. And that's what's eating you guys alive, is that you have these dreams, you have this big ego, you want to have the bling-bling. At the end of the day, you guys are at the club, but you're way at the back of the line, and you're seeing all your compadres, all your competitors walk up in front of you and get in the club and have a good time, whereas you guys are just standing there in the rain waiting, and you're going, what's going on? What's wrong here? And it's unfortunate because you guys have now realized it after that game versus Wisconsin. Michigan is not anywhere near nationally relevant. Michigan is nowhere near nationally relevant, and they are not about to get there anytime soon.
Now, John, if after 5 years or even 4 that we could have said that Michigan still hasn't beaten Ohio State and hasn't won a Big Ten championship, what would we have said 5 years ago when Jim Harbaugh was hired?
I would have laughed.
The thing, John.
I would have laughed.
Yeah, right. You would have said, or, all these Michigan fans, maybe even myself back then, would have said, no way is that possible. Michigan would have won a Big Ten East Division crown at the very least, and I would say multiple, and a Big Ten championship at the very least, and beaten Ohio State once at least. It hasn't happened as of yet. And like you had told your cousin, Adam Straczynski of Doc and Jock fame, before the season even started, you lost all of that defensive talent, including Rashawn Gary, a guy I had mentioned before, and I brought up all the defensive talent that they had lost from last season. So going into this year, you knew your defense wasn't going to be nearly as elite or elite at all, and that was showcased last week against Wisconsin, to say the least. But also your offense has never clicked on all cylinders. And, Karan Higgins was good, but you never had this explosive number one back. Shea Patterson wasn't explosive last year. Wasn't even close to being elite. Hasn't even been close to elite this season thus far. And you still stay with them. But anyways, I digress, as my point is, what really made Michigan fans believe that they were going to contend for a national championship, or at least a Big Ten championship this season, with all the tough foes they have on their schedule as well. And with Ohio State not slowing down. I know they have a new head man in Ryan Day at his first full year on the job as Ohio State head coach. But he's this innovative offensive mind. And then, John, we found out earlier this week that Jim Harbaugh talked on the phone with Josh Gaddick, the current offensive coordinator for Michigan, for 20 minutes. And that's why they hired him. After 20 minutes of talking over the phone with him, he hired him to be the OC. And who even knows who truly is calling all the plays on a game-to-game basis. I believe Harbaugh is still calling at least some of the plays, and there have been murmurs of that anyways this season. So all of that being said, you know what? People should not have believed that Michigan was going to be this great program in 2019. And at this point, Michigan is the type of program is not nationally relevant. You're right, because they can't contend with the elite programs in the nation, the likes of Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, which is sad to say the Michigan fan down deep You know what? Michigan can't contend with Ohio State. It's nowhere close to even Ohio State, your arch rival. And truly, it's not even a rivalry at this point, because the best that Michigan can do, in my opinion, at this point, almost 5 full years into the Harbaugh era, is that it can be a program that once every 10 years wins the Big Ten East Division title, or maybe, twice every 10 years, Michigan, is going to be good enough to win a Big Ten East Division crown. And maybe one time out of those 10 years, it's going to win the Big Ten championship. But that's sad, John, when you consider the Harbaugh expectations going into the start of his era in Ann Arbor as a Michigan head man. It was to, beat Ohio State like 3 out of every 5 years, 3 times in his first 5 years on the job, to probably win multiple Big Ten championships. And Michigan is nowhere near that at this point.
Oh, man, what a great week. It was so good listening to all the media, trying to talk about it. Was such a great week. Let's show love to a sponsor, and then second half of the podcast, we got to recap. The Detroit Tigers finally finished the home portion of their schedule, losing 59 of 81 home games. You and I took in the majority of them. We got to recap it to end this podcast. But let's show love to the great sponsor, DC Sports, over there at Lakeside Mall.
Our sponsor is Detroit City Sports at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights. And the owner of DC Sports is Steve Gross, a fellow De La Salle Collegiate High School alum. So I love him just because of that. Also, he's an awesome guy. And he is such a giving guy to so many different charitable endeavors, including this past summer's Turco and Company charity softball game. And by the way, he was a guest on these very airways as well a couple of weeks ago. I sat down with him and talked to him about all of his experiences in running at DC Sports for all of the years in which he has run that company at this point. And he has a terrific signing with Detroit Lions, a legendary running back, Barry Sanders, coming up, as well as with members of the 1984 Bless You Boys World Series Championship Detroit Tigers. And that would be Jack Morris, Dan Petrie, and others. So, John, and everybody out there, to find out more about DC Sports at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights, please follow DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit. And also make sure to check out their terrific website at DetroitCitySports.com.
All right, Vito. The Tigers season is mercifully going to end in a couple weeks. Man, Vito, I mean, at this point in time of the recording, they have 112 losses, 59 of them at home. A lot of records have been set. Everybody can go and find them. The most losses in a single season at home in the entire history of the Tigers franchise. Comerica Park, basically the last 2 weeks has been empty. There's been nobody there. There's no buzz. And the Tigers continue to lose game after game. So obviously, we do a podcast weekly called Tigers Talk, and in essence, what we're doing is really not breaking down what's happening with the Tigers, is we're exploring and we're looking at the prospects, what the future looks like. And now, the Detroit Tigers, they did secure the worst record in Major League Baseball in 2019. So 2 of the past 3 years, they've indeed had the worst record, and they're going to draft high. But what surprised me was right before the game, against the Twins, the last game there, I was shocked because Al Kaline comes on the radio and he's kind of recapping things, and you expect Al Kaline to kind of say a lot of nice things because he works in the organization, but he had what I thought was probably the most scathing critique of the organization. And I think what we're going to see is a different strategy in the coming years in terms of draft. But he said, looking around the organization, he just sees a complete lack of power across the entire organization. And what he said was, on top of that, which I thought was fascinating, he said was, I'm not really interested in speculating on these guys and wondering if their power is going to come. He goes, we should be drafting guys where we know the power is there. Why? Because they displayed it in college. And I just thought, wow, what an interesting insight into what a great leader and a great man Al Kaline thought of the organization. But at the end of the day, it's true. There's a plethora of arms. There just isn't a lot of power within that entire organization. Who is going to, smash the home runs? Who's going to bring in the bacon? Who's going to help the team out? So this year completely was a disaster. And all I can share is covering it. It's weird because, there are stories, but at the end of the day, it's like a tidal wave of negativity because the team played really bad. And I know I texted you, I felt like the culmination of the season was Randy Dobnak dominated the Tigers, and Pat Caputo on the radio, he lost his crap. He kept saying, a pitcher that came from Utica, an M59, he came in and he dominated the Tigers. And he goes, outside of that game, if you did watch it, I did catch a little bit of it, in that when the Tigers went up there, they were swinging at balls in the dirt that were thrown 55 feet. I mean, Candelario had probably the worst swing of the season in that the ball hit the dirt 2 feet before the home plate, and he swung at it. And you looked at it and you said, wow, the plate discipline went away, defensive efficiency went away, competitiveness has gone away. And so partly I'm upset at Ron Gardenhire, not at the wins and loss record, but at the overall morale of the team. And I just ask myself this, and I don't want to be crass, but I speak my mind, and I'm not afraid to say it. At the end of the day, Vito, who wants to play baseball for their grandpa? Nobody. I just think that, it was evident that these guys, these young guys that were on the team, had more talent than what they displayed. And whose fault is that? That's the direct fault of Ron Gardenhire. I feel like, he's a good manager. People are saying, he's got a good temperament. He's patient and things like that. But I feel like the biggest critique you can make of Ron Gardenhire this year was he was too patient. These guys, I know you have to field a team, but if you're going to play like that, you need to sit your ass down and just keep cycling through players that are going to at least hustle. And I felt that was the biggest thing that I saw was there wasn't this display of passion game in, game out. Now, it showed up once or twice a month. It was there, but I think outside of talent, which is obviously not there, the hustle wasn't there. The passion just went away. And that's directly the fault of the manager. And he knows it. I know he knows that these guys tuned him out and they just kind of went through the motions. And it's not just a talent thing. It was an effort thing as well. And I know you heard the piece on 97.1 where he's kind of saying, look, I have a job to do. I want to come back. But potentially, it's kind of weird and it's a double-edged sword. And it sounds weird in that a lot of these guys that are on the roster aren't going to be here when the team's good. And he potentially could be gone too. So what, in essence, is the real reason to keep Gardenhire? I'm not really seeing it. I think you could start the rebuild fully by bringing in your young manager that's going to start working with the guys that are going to start coming up. And I just don't see really anymore the need for Ron Gardenhire. And I'm confused as to why he's going to be the manager next year.
Well, John Charles Macaroon, are you done talking, by the way?
Dude, that was great. Wasn't that a great flow? Great. That was probably...
It was very, very good.
Yeah, that was...
Very good tirade you just went on.
Yeah, that was...
eloquent.
Yes, that was probably my longest flow of information from my brain without messing up. That was pretty good.
That was really good. And about the Detroit Tigers, our Detroit Tigers that we covered so many games for this season. Now, you criticized Ron Gardenhire, but always remember when talking about this current state of the Tigers that they have an extreme lack of talent. They are barren when it comes to positional player talent and when it comes to talent that can produce the long ball on a consistent game-to-game basis. So as much as we want to criticize Ron Gardenhire for his team not being ready or full of energy and giving their maybe full effort every single night, which does fall upon him if we're going to say that the team didn't bring its A game in terms of a full level of effort on a consistent basis. But if you want to criticize him for the lack of power showcased by the team as a whole throughout the course of this season, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Because Miguel Cabrera hit for 10 home runs this season. Do you think he's going to just start hitting for power now all of a sudden, or that Gardenhire had control over him and him hitting for more power this season? Well, Cabrera, Miguel Cabrera is definitely towards the end of, being even close to relevant. He's not even really close to relevant at this point. So as much as I just said that. But he's the guy that's not going to turn it around at this point in the latter part of his Major League Baseball career. Then you look at the young guys to pick from that are on the Major League roster right now, and they're not extremely talented power hitters, at least as of yet, including Victor Reyes, Nico Goodrum, Christian Stewart. I mean, Brandon Dixon was one of your best power hitters this year, and he was hitting horribly at AAA Toledo before he even got called up. Then he had a good run where he was relevant for a while, even hit the long ball for a couple of weeks, for a month and a half, let's say. But he's a guy that's not going to sustain that level of success. So it's become where it's a team-wide, organizational-wide problem with the lack of potent home run hitters. And everybody else is doing it all across Major League Baseball. You see the Yankees and Twins having hit 300 or maybe even more than 300 home runs as a team now this season. So the home run ball is just off the charts how many that have been hit this season. Records continue to be broken, continue to be set. And the Tigers aren't even close to being a relevant power-hitting ball club, which means, as Al Kinline said and others have said now, John, including you and I on Tigers Talk on a weekly basis, the Tigers have to change their mentality and their philosophy on an organizational basis. And it's because they don't have enough strong power-hitting guys and really just enough strong hitters as an organization. When you look at their farm system and what they've built up so far in the farm. Now, it looks good when it comes to the arms. And some of those guys are actually power arms. But you don't have a ton of steady hitting position players. And specifically, once again, guys that hit for power on a regular basis. So that means to me the Tigers better adjust that and start drafting those type of guys that can slug the ball out of the ballpark on a consistent basis and even at a premium rate, because the Tigers are extremely lacking that right now, to say the least. And the Tigers were ugly. I mean, they were ugly all season long to watch, weren't they? So, I mean, many of us as Tigers fans and pundits alike were distraught and up in arms. But guess what? Ron Gardenhire, back to him, John. He couldn't do too much, man. Now, maybe the team could have done a little bit more in terms of showing effort and energy on a game-to-game basis. Sure, once again, that critique would fall directly upon the shoulders of Gardenhire as a Tigers skipper. But getting the team to hit and to hit for power, he can't just, magically make that happen. He's no magician, and there's no cure for that unless you bring in the right hitters, the guys that can hit the long ball on a consistent basis. And until the Tigers start drafting those guys and going in that direction as a team, well, it's not going to just happen for the Detroit Tigers. Even in this day and age, where once again you see all these teams hitting the long ball at a premium rate. And as a team, once again, the Twins, the Yankees, all across baseball, all these other teams have started hitting the long ball at premium rates. And the Tigers aren't even close to them. They are far behind. And that's the problem as an organization. And it's the reason why they lost 100-plus games. And why they almost lost 60 games at home this season, which would have been a major league record. Bad enough they lost as many as they did, losing 59. So, I mean, a horrible season all around. And we saw a lot of guys that didn't make progress at the plate this season at the major league level as well, and instead regressed. Jeimer Candelario being one of those notable dudes as a young guy that didn't take strides, didn't make any strides at the plate this season, was down in AAA Toledo for some of the season because he was struggling so mightily at the plate. So, and that, once again, doesn't fall upon the shoulders of Ron Gardenhire directly, but upon the shoulders of the organization as a whole. And now it's on Al Avila, once again, to start drafting those guys that can hit for power and to start adding those guys via free agency and via trades that are just better hitters and guys that can hit for power once again on a consistent basis.
We will end the podcast on a positive note. Me and you covering the Yankees-Tigers series was awesome. I really enjoyed that game where it was a back and forth. I mean, we had a funny bit there where I told you to start writing after it was 6-0. The Tigers came back and actually won that game. That probably was the game of the season, the game of the year to cover. And that series was crazy because the Yankees came in and they said, okay, let's eat our spinach and destroy the baseball. I had never seen so many home runs leave a ballpark that I got my fill the rest of the season, despite the fact that the Tigers didn't score a bunch of runs. They didn't play that well. Just look at the run differential. Look at the sheer terrible numbers that were produced there. But at the end of the day, we were lucky to go cover them. Better times are ahead, and I think it gives us a little bit of grit, a little bit of mettle that, hey, we covered the team at their worst, at the worst bottom peak of their rebuild, and hopefully when the time comes and the team plays a lot better, it'll be better all the way around for the network, for you and I, and it'll be a lot more fun to talk to these guys in the locker room, in the clubhouse, when their attitudes are better, talking about wins. Great podcast, sir.
The sad thing is,
yeah, go ahead.
The sad thing is, not to cut you off, but we're going to see a lot more losing next year. Ron Gardenhire, as he inferred in so many words in his past radio hit, he's probably not going to be around when the Tigers get good again. So that's a sad thing for Ron Gardenhire at this stage in his major league managerial career, going into his final season with this contract as Tigers skipper. After 2020 is when the Tigers might finally get good, and he more than likely won't be around for that.
See everybody next week. You just downloaded the latest edition of Two Bad Hombres. Thanks, Vito.
John, it's been fun. Adios, guys.